Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host, joined by my blue collar badass, Matt. How's it going, man?
Going good, Dylan. I'm wearing my freshest fly threads today for the podcast. I figured I'd dress up for this one since I normally am in like a t-shirt or something similar. So that's why I'm showing out for the public today.
There you go. Yeah, I'm keeping it just chill over
Hey,
here.
somebody's got to keep it real, man.
That's
So,
what it
dude,
is.
how was your weekend? I hear you did some jogging.
I did a little bit, ran a 50K, which is 31 miles and change up in Lake Tahoe. Starts at 6,200 feet. So we start North Star Ski Resort and go straight up the mountain for the first few miles to begin with. So climb like, I don't know, 1,000+ feet in the first 3 miles, total 4,500 feet of gain over the race. And yeah, the reason that I ended up doing this one, I've done it. This is my third time doing this race. So one, I really like it. Love Tahoe, love that whole area. And two is this was a buddy and his first trail anything, right? So first time
Oh
running on
wow.
trails, period. And then first ultra marathon. I actually ran the San Francisco marathon with him 2 years ago, two and a half, something like that, years ago, and that was his first marathon. So
I remember when you
um,
did that. That's cool.
yeah, yeah. So pulled him through this race, and I mean, there's a ton of lessons out of this, but like he wanted to quit at 17, 18 miles. I mean, it's just, dude, the first half of that race is just punishing.
Sounds like
Started
it.
at 58 degrees, ended at 90 something degrees,
Oh
you
wow.
know. So it got hot, it's hard, you know, but a lot of lessons out of the weekend.
Did you guys both finish it?
Yep. So I ran with him the whole way. And to give you an idea, so like last year I did this race in 7 hours flat, pretty much like 7:01 maybe. And then this year I did it 8.5 and change.
Okay.
But that was because I ran with him the whole time, right? Like I wasn't there for selfish reasons, right? Or to PR or anything like that. My whole thing was to make sure that he got across the finish line. That pure, simple reason.
That's that is leadership 101, man. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's really
I,
and it's his first trail race ever, like of any type.
yep. Yep.
And you put him on a 50K. There's shorter trail races you could have started him off on.
Yeah, but what's the fun in that, right? In doing it. The only thing I will say is I didn't let him win. So
Well, you can't.
no.
You don't want him getting cocky. I know who you're
I
talking about. I don't know him personally, but that's pretty cool that you did that for him or with him
Yep.
or both.
And then along the way too, like I ended up being this guy because the thing with trail running is people are pretty personable. Everybody likes to talk and chat and all that kind of stuff on these races. And I ended up talking to a guy who had lost 200 plus pounds in the last 2, 3 years. So in 2021, he said he was 450 pounds, wore a size like 50 pant at one point, and he carried a picture with him that was actually like a celebration dinner of him losing 35 pounds and going down like four pant sizes. He was wearing 46s at that point. And then the I didn't ask him what he weighed like today, but I was guessing he's 250, right? Taller, kind of still big dude. So I'm guessing he's lost 200 pounds. Um,
That
and
is incredible.
yeah,
Wow. So what is that? Is that 30 miles ish?
yeah, 31 and change. It's like 31.1 or
Okay.
two, something like that.
That's incredible, man. Good for that guy.
Yeah, and he finished. He was kind of right there with us. He was maybe 5, 10 minutes behind us at the finish line.
Wow. That's a hell of an accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. So you meet all kinds, and I mean, those are some of the lessons, like, you know, showing up, showing out. That's half of the battle in a lot of things. And I think it gets missed, just showing up and being there for people. Um, we've lost that sense of community in a lot of ways the last few years, uh, probably longer than that, but showing up for people is a big deal. And it's something I think that we sometimes take for granted.
Well, and that's pretty cool to go, and I assume you've got 31.1 odd miles of pretty limited distractions, right? You can just focus on chatting with your buddy, or I don't even know if you can talk while you're running that sort of race, but focus on thinking, focus on whatever you want versus the what we're going to get into here, in the day-to-day grind.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. I mean, there's really not service out there on the race. I mean, you're pretty isolated. Um, Work can for sure wait. I mean, this race was on a Sunday, but it's like you're not going to deal with any of that, right? You have one job in front of you, eat, drink, and move, and everything else can kind of wait, right? You're here to accomplish a mission, a task. And what we're going to talk about today is I think that same mission mindset and orientation gets lost in our day-to-day stuff of like, I have this project to work on right now, right? This estimate to do right now, this project to manage right now. Everything else can kind of wait. But we end up getting bombarded with stuff. And depending on your role in the company, um, some of that's necessary, some of that's just going to happen, some of it's what it is. And then it's trying to prioritize and manage, what's actually urgent, what's actually important, what should you be working on now, and what else is just a distraction in the day-to-day chaos that is the construction industry.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it last week, and it got to be ready and willing and able to put out fires when needed. But it's also pretty damn important to be able to undistract yourself, right? Take the breaks, go run a impossible race, go fishing, go, whatever it is, play golf, something like that. So you got to have that balance, and especially hot runners, high charging entrepreneurial types, it takes a lot to get me to stop. But I have people in my life, one of them in particular, who constantly is saying like, you have to just take a break. Like you got to stop. We got to go off in the woods, go to the lake, go do something. Um, so it's important to do that. But to your point for today, I mean, how do you suggest focusing during a normal day? Because there are so many different balls in every direction. It's like a never ending, impossible juggling event, right? It's with clients and employees and all the shit that's going on in this chaotic industry. We keep touching on, construction is chaos. It's controlled chaos, but that's what it is. So how do you suggest we kind of work to build that focus time back in?
Yeah, and real quick to say too, like we need that off time in our lives, right? Otherwise, you're just going to burn out and you're going to be forced to take it, right? You're going to be forced to take time one way or the other. So you might as well do it on your own terms, not on terms dictated to you by your body, right?
Your
Like,
health, yeah.
yeah, right. Like, so you're forced to do it. And we've all been there, and I know we've touched on this a bunch. But when it comes to projects, and this is like very top of mind for me in being able to prioritize things, working through with all the clients, what we have going on, making sure that everybody's taken care of, and putting in systems, processes, working on other kind of longer term projects it is a very big juggling act. And first and foremost, you're not going to be able to shortcut your way through this. You're not going to be able to work fewer hours to get through this. It is going to be time intensive, and there's like no way around that, right? Let's just get that out of the way first. Next is, and I do this kind of on a daily basis, is what are the big priorities, right? What are the things that I said I would get done? And let me continue to be a man of my word and get those things out, right? Come hell or high water, let's get those things out and done, no matter what the time ends up being. So I think that's one big item is continue to hold your word. So if you said you get something to somebody on Monday or whatever, you're going to work and you'll get it to them Monday. It might be 10 o'clock at night by the time you get them drawings, but you're going to get it out and you're going to get to them. Right. And so you meet that in the day. Cause again, nobody's going to look at it end of day, right? 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It really doesn't matter at that point, right? You just got it to them so they can review it the next morning. That's what we're really getting at. So I think it's making sure that you maintain your integrity, but two is prioritizing, which projects are getting done, and then understanding like as things come in or estimates come in, like, okay, where does this fall in a deadline priority, right? And how long do I like, let me open the project and let me see how long this thing's really going to take. Is this a 10,000 square foot building, or is this a 500,000 square foot, super complex and dense project, right? Two very different timelines, two very different expectations. And we kind of need to have that understanding before we just throw out, like, I'll get this to you in 3 days, when, like, maybe that's fine for the small project, but for the big project, like, that you didn't look at, there's no way that that's going to happen.
So do you use a specific tool or thing to kind of make those judgment calls and to divvy up the tasks? Like I've used, especially I'm using it again now. And in the past, I've used it when I had more employees. It's called the Eisenhower matrix. And it's a pretty simple 4-block matrix. And it's on one side is urgent, not urgent. And the other is important, not important. And you kind of filter all the shit you got to do in a given time, and obviously the urgent important stuff has to be done by you now, and it kind of filters priority levels down to the least important, or either throw it out, don't do it, or delegate it out completely. Curious though if you use anything similar, or if you still, I mean, I know you used the power list in the past, or maybe still.
Yeah. So in construction, the power list is a hard thing to really use on our side of stuff, right? Because like reading, working out, doing the, few calls that you need to move forward, like the power list, I think in our world and with projects, and I've kind of revised my take on this. Again, the system works and is great, but you've got to have like very small tasks on the power list side of things for your personal move the ball forward stuff, right? Reading, working out, spending time with your family, like not looking at your phone, making the 1-2 calls you need, making a social post on social media. Then when it comes to your projects and kind of your work day, the Eisenhower matrix is a great way to do that. I've got like the whiteboard here next to me of a calendar view. And I mark everything out to see where things are, where deadlines are. And I know kind of how big the projects are that we're working on. And I also have another kind of list and proposal piece of keep a track of proposals. And, as projects come in or proposals come in, estimates, how long is that going to take? What do we need to put together there? When is it due? So, and then all of that kind of also feeds into a CRM that we keep track of everything in there from a proposal standpoint, win lose uh, ratio, and then any projects that get moved into production, everything stays in there. We use Monday.com for that stuff, but again, that's really more of a tracking mechanism for where our projects, what came in, and how we doing on it, right? Do we win a proposal, lose a proposal? And it tallies like all the sum of all of our proposals to kind of see what we have from a pipeline standpoint and who's giving us proposals where they are
Yeah.
dollar value wise, so that we can say, hey, this is good client, bad client, so on and so forth.
How do you like the Monday.com system? We're actually in the process now of building out a custom CRM with our collective buddy Roy and his firm. They're kicking ass for us, and it's going to be super cool and very, very fine tuned to what I want, what we want here. I've not used Monday very extensively, but is it pretty robust for what you need?
From a very simple like project board standpoint, it's worked well for us. We basically each client has their own kind of board. We could give them access to it if we chose to. We really haven't done that yet, but we, can put basically feed values in there, who's it assigned to. We can upload quotes, proposals, all that into the system, and then we'd have like a board for each client in there, and
Mhm.
then simple update to say like, this is proposal, this is in design, this is in construction, this is closed lost, you know, whatever that might be status wise. And then you can sort the board through that. And then again, some it automatically sums the columns for you. So we can say that, hey, in our proposals, we have X dollars in, pipeline.
Right on. I mean, it kind of ties around the whole idea of building systems out for your team, for your processes, because yes, there's the obvious benefits what we're talking about now, in reducing distractions so that you can really focus on working in the spot, your production zone, right, where you're best, personally. But there's also a lot of other benefits to really systematizing your business, and I think we'd be remiss not to talk about some of those because some of them are pretty lucrative. I just had lunch today, in fact, with a guy whose family recently sold their longstanding business. They're in the construction space, which is um, not typically an industry where you see a whole lot of focus on systems, and certainly not an industry where you see a lot of focus on venture capital firms until in the last 5 years, really. They recently just sold their firm to a VC firm out of California, I think, which is like where they're all from now. Um, but from an economic perspective, they did really, really well. And the reason is because they have such rigid and effective systems in place to handle the processes that they need to do. I'm not going to say their name or what specific aspect they're in, but um, they're in a labor intensive trade, right? So it's not your typical, it's easy to go to like some Silicon Valley firm and say, all right, we're going to put in systems to automate this, and this. And in my mind, it's easy. It's difficult to do that when you're talking about trade labor and the blue collar fields, but they did it. And that's one of the reasons why they were able to capitalize on this opportunity. And I mean, it's pretty cool to hear about. I don't plan on exiting like that. Certainly not anytime soon, but to know that that's an option, and all we really have to do is put this focus on really systematizing everything we do, so that the whole idea is somebody else could walk in and on day one, more or less know what the hell's going on and know how to keep the ship going forward.
Yeah, so one of the big acquisitions that just happened is Cupertino Electric just got bought for 1.5 billion. That's with a B. Um,
It's a
which
nice
is
number.
Yep. So Cupertino's top line was 2 billion is what they disclosed. So it was like what is that, a 0.75 multiple on the exit of their top line revenue. So this is like the other thing that I think a lot of firms get wrong when it comes to exits, and we should probably do another show on some of this. Not that I'm an investor or anything like that in it, but is most firms they're trying to sell for like 3 to 5x of top line, and that's not at all what you're gonna sell for. So Cupertino, let's just say they made 10% bottom line, so it's 200 million, and so that's like a 7.5x multiple on their bottom line number, right? And they're only going to get that because one, they're massive, right? They're a top 20 electrical contractor.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's huge. So you're going to get a better multiple the bigger you are. And then for small firms, like let's say that you're doing 3 to 5 million in revenue with 500K in bottom line. Well, at best, you're going to do a 3x multiple on that. And then if you're a design firm and let's say that you're the principal of that firm, you're the licensed guy, you hold all the contacts, your firm is not worth shit. Like the people in there is worth something unless you have master service agreement contracts, that's worth something. But the rest of that, when you leave, it's not worth anything because you're the key man within the company. And then what a lot of these firms end up doing is they don't add owner's comp within the delta between top line and bottom line. It says that, we did 2.5 million with a 1.5 in expenses, but that million delta does not include any of your ownership salaries or anything like that. So you start to add, the 2, 3 executives in the company. Well, now you just decreased your bottom line by another 40%, right? It went from 1 million to 500,000 because you didn't include that. Because as a purchaser of that, I would need to then pay somebody to run that company, right? So a lot of this is in design firms, especially. I'm sure this happens in contractors as well, but owner's comp is not included within the bottom line of the company for valuations out of it. So really, and I know I'm talking a lot of numbers here and going really quick through this, but it's a big item that you cannot include your full owner's comp. There needs to be a salary in there and then distributions on a separate line for what the company would throw off if you put somebody in place to actually run the firm. But this goes to systems of hiring, training, recruiting, production, everything that falls within what you do as a firm, right? And it's a big ball, but on the exit side of it, you get better multiples if you have all that in place.
Totally. Couldn't agree more, man. I've paid in the past, I paid a firm to do a full valuation of Schaefer Construction. Mainly, I wanted to know where we were at, right? I have my own calculations, everybody does, but you never really know if you're full of shit or not. So I paid a firm to do a full-blown audit and valuation. And those were the questions they spent a lot of time grilling me on. Like, okay, what do you have in the system? What's your system for estimating? What's your system for lead generation, for recruitment, for all of the things? How do you manage projects? And then the big question after every single one was, how does that continue when you leave? How do they do it? How does anybody do it when you're not there? And that's a tough question to answer. A lot of construction firms, at least in our size range, start as the solopreneur firm where one guy or one person is doing literally everything, or at least 90%. And if you jump ship and sail the other way, like there all of a sudden there's no captain and that boat's just floundering. But it's behooves you as an owner to really put some time and thought into this and to see where you can increase your efficiencies, what systems you can actually incorporate that make a difference, right? You also don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, and you can't automate everything, but there's a lot to be said for really putting some good headspace into figuring this one out.
It's systems, checklists, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be automated, but there's got to be a training, a protocol, a checklist in place so that you can hand it off and bring somebody in to do that specific role, whatever it might be, right? Estimator, project manager, production guy, recruiter, marketing, sales, all of it. You can train all those pieces. And that's what the biggest and best firms really do. Because otherwise, you just have a cash flow machine, right? You have no real asset, you have no real intrinsic value. And especially on the design side, where if you're the licensed professional and you're the only one and you're the owner of the firm and you're trying to sell it and you leave, there's literally no value in acquiring that firm. Like there's nothing of value in there, and you're trying to sell it for millions of dollars. And this is why most of them don't sell, is because there's no value in there. Like your client book is minimal, right? Like there's nothing.
Yeah, and we've seen that here in our little town. Like there was a firm that tried that route. They'd been around for a long time. They were respected. Frankly, they were a decent competitor of ours, and they went that route. They did this phony ass valuation, and they tried marketing it, and no one wanted to touch it. And then they finally ended up taking a fire sale deal, And because there were no systems in place, the new owners came in and literally every single one of the existing employees jumped ship and left. And you see that stuff so often, and that's why. Like, it's not just for selling, right? I don't want to get off on the note that we're just interested in, selling our businesses someday, but it's for training, it's for bringing new people in, it's for duplicating yourself, which is what you have to do to run any business effectively. So it's really important stuff that people don't pay enough attention to.
There's a reason why like venture capital and everybody focuses on this, right? Systems, processes. It creates duplication. It creates a pathway to move forward. And if you don't have it, then you're just going to be running yourself ragged. And then at the end of the day, when you go to retire in 30 years or 40 years or 10 years, and you try to sell it, like, you have nothing to sell. There's no value in what you have. And then you're just going to be pissed off that you worked your whole life and you have no way to exit, right? You have no retirement plan. And hopefully you saved some money along the way because you have now something you thought was an asset that is just worthless.
Yeah. We've said it time and time again. We're not producing and selling widgets that we can, speculate and forecast for the next 10 years how many widgets we need to sell and make. And it doesn't work like that. We're people capital firms. And, there's ways to succeed on that back end too, but you got to put the thought in up front, and you got to really put a concerted effort into making everything you do, everything your company does, as efficient and structured as possible, even though it's painful to set up, without a doubt.
Yeah. So again, guys, this is just hammering home the systems processes that it's needed, it's required, it's something that actually builds some value in your company. And that if you would like to have an exit at some point, or at least have that option of exiting your business, you're going to have to put in systems, right? From marketing, training, hiring, recruiting, retention, production, estimation, project management. Everything and anything that you do needs to have a system and a checklist behind it for you to ultimately have something of value and potentially sell down the road.
Amen to that.
All right, guys, we're going to be short and sweet this week. Thank you all so much for listening. And if you got anything out of this show, please share it with a friend. We want to do this and continue to do it to help you grow your firm, grow your career, and really make the construction industry great. So thank you for sharing the show. And until next time.